So this session is 18 tips and tricks for highly converting email. And if this wasn't the session you originally thought was planned for today, there was a time change. So unfortunately, you are stuck with me. And let's just talk a little bit about what to expect in this session. Oh, there I am. So why do we care about email? For every $1 spent on email, it can generate up to $38 in ROI. And I didn't make that stat up, Constant Contact did. But some emails work better than others. So what I'm attempting to do in this session is really go beyond personalizing and testing. So I'm an email marketer. Of course, I believe that personalizing and testing are fundamentals to not only email marketing, but digital marketing. But we all already know that. Every list you see on best practices for email tell you to personalize and test. So I'm really gonna try to just share some of the tips that I've learned along the way, and hopefully that they work for you too. So who am I and why am I qualified to ramble on about email marketing for the next 45 minutes? My name is Bethany Akridge. I lead retention for MyEyeDr, which is really the intersection, our company is really the intersection of eye health and also retail because we sell eyewear. But before I worked for MyEyeDr, well, many years ago, I got my start in email marketing with WeddingWire. So at the time, it was a local DC tech scene startup. And it's when I first went from being a marketing generalist to really in email marketing, living and breathing email marketing every day. And within 2 years of being self-taught and taught by my boss and my mentor, I had taken home a trophy from Salesforce Marketing Cloud for Best Overall Customer Lifecycle and was invited to speak at one of their major conferences, Connections. So I've been speaking now and then on email marketing and also training email marketers from really going from zero experience to experts in their field. And so in 2022, this year, I launched emailmarketingcrashcourse.com, which is really a culmination of all of those years of doing that. So enough about me. I want to dive in, but before we get to the first tip, I just want to get your candid response to the following slide. Just take a moment to read this. One more minute, let it soak in. Just curious, just a raise of hands, how many people did this work on? Your eyes followed the way the instructions intended it to. So the first time I saw something like this, it worked on me, and about 85% of the people that I ask, it works on them. But this is actually my first time showing this in a PowerPoint format, so I was curious to see how it would translate. It seems like about what I expected. So for anyone who forgot their glasses today or can't see the slide and don't really get what it was trying to do, first you're gonna read the big red font. It says, first you'll read this, then you will read this, the subheader. Next, third, you will read this, the copy. And then last, your eyes will go to the big CTA. Now, sometime after that, they'll wander back up to the banner and the sub-banner. So how did I know that? Because it was designed this way, and it's following a principle that's going to be in our first tip, which is designing with the inverted pyramid of design. Literally picture your hands and flip it upside down. It's a triangle upside down. So the concept, first starting with an attention-grabbing headline, then exciting and informative details, and then moving on to the CTA, was really stolen from journalism. So if you think about a news article, the journalist starts with an attention-grabbing headline, then the first sentence of the first paragraph is the latest developments, the what matters most, and then as you keep reading, you learn the context and the background. So when a lot of people hear about this concept, they think, won't all of my emails look the same then? That's so basic. And that's what I love about this WeddingWire example. So I mentioned before that I previously worked at WeddingWire. This is a beautiful example of an email. It has beautiful imagery, simple header, enticing header. If you're planning your wedding, you definitely care about your budget. What you can't tell in a PowerPoint format is that these were little actually GIF icons as if you were going through your budget, exciting and informative details, and then a strong CTA. Same thing here. Once you see the inverted pyramid, you can't unsee it. Look how different all three of these emails are, different branding, different design, but they still have that underlying structure. Here's an example. Here's a not so good example, I guess you could say, of Costco. And this is not to pick on Costco. This email is actually very old, so you can imagine that they've probably updated with some best practices here in 2022. But what happened here is basically a print ad turned into an email. So my eyes are trying to scan for that attention-grabbing headline. I see Get Fit. I see money in 2015. You can tell how old this email is. The exciting, informative details, there are a lot of them, and there's really no big, bold CTA. But they got it right in the other email. Last chance to save, $25 off, and then the big CTA. So you can see the difference in this too. Another thing people say is like, what if I have more to say? And what about newsletters? So two just quick examples of newsletters. One on desktop, little bitty triangles in there. One on mobile, same thing. And then I just put an S there to show you this is an S-curve design, which is also great for converting email if you have more to say. Just when you thought that I couldn't drill this point in anymore, here's two examples of plain text emails. Now, the one on your left has an image in there. It looks really authentic. It also has a face in there, which is not one of the tips, but faces help convert email as well. Even here, there are some baby triangles that I can find. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, front load important information. So that's really self-explanatory, but I'm going to show you two examples, one inside an email and one of a subject line. Okay, so there's two emails up here, one from Columbia Pike Partnership, which is like local neighborhood organization, and one from Navy Federal Credit Union. This is just the top of the emails. It's not the whole email, but you get the point. This was opened on my iPhone. And so on the left, you can see that first I have a message just for my iPhone. Then you have the sender and it's blanked out, but the recipient. And then my device pulls in the subject line into the inside of the email. Then they have the Columbia Pike Partnership has this big logo and a really tall hero. So everything before you even get to what they're trying to say, it's way below the fold. Whereas with Navy Federal, they have their big, clear header copy right there for me to see, even with everything else that's pushing it down. And I think something that's important to note about this too is that if you view your email, you test it as a preview in your email service provider, so whatever you use to send emails, it doesn't show you actually all of those other things that are pushing it down. So it's best to test in your inbox. The second example are subject lines. So let's say you own a home goods store and Halloween decorations are here. And everyone's excited, it's fall, everyone wants your Halloween decorations, and you say Halloween decorations are here, save 40%. That's a super specific, pretty short, pretty enticing subject line. But if you were to front load the important information, you'd say save 40% on Halloween decorations. Your home goods store, it's the fall. Everyone probably knows you have Halloween decorations, but what do they care about most is that they're going to save 40%. That way you can make sure that doesn't get cut off in a lot of the smaller devices. Tip number 3, use live text, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So this email is the wedding wire example again. Everything in here, including the font on top of the hero image, is live text. And there's a few reasons why this is important. Number one is that if images are ever turned off, if someone has their image blocker on, then images are not going to show. And if you have your most important message in an image, then your subscribers won't see it. Number two, if you look at the body copy, if it's on an image, then on mobile, the whole thing is going to shrink down. But if it's live text, you can code it so that the copy grows on mobile and it's a lot easier to read. I think that was all my points for this one. Yeah. Number 4, use big bulletproof buttons. So more specifically, use big, obvious, tappable, bulletproof buttons. So similar thing here is historically a lot of times the button wasn't an image. It would be an image made with that blue block and put into your email, or the button actually lives on an image, which is the same thing. If images don't display, then people aren't going to be able to do the most fundamental thing of your email, which is convert. The great thing about bulletproof buttons is there's several generators out there online that make it really easy. So I just wanted to include an example from Campaign Monitor. It's buttons.cm, and you can go in here and fill in all your things, and they will generate a bulletproof button for you. And what I mean by a bulletproof button is just that. That's just something that we say in the industry, which means that it will load no matter what, because it's coded with a background color and not an image. Number 5, focus on one message. This is something that comes up so often. It's something that in my role at MyEyeDr, I deal with so many of our emails that we're planning. And it's really that you want to, for a highly converting email, you want to give someone one choice. So I'm actually going to show you an example from my personal life, and you do not need to see this or be able to read it. This is just to show you, like, wow, that's a long email. So this was one person trying to coordinate travel with multiple people. And there's like many questions in here, many ideas and many thoughts. And so what happens is that you're going to open this email and say like, oh, that's kind of long. I don't have time for that right now, and come back to it. And then you never do, because you're going to forget about it. And that same thing happens with your marketing emails. So what would be better if you were planning travel is to say like, okay, in this email, let's pick our date. Then let's pick our location, then our restaurants or activities, and break it down into several days or several weeks. It's something actually that I refer to as the Cheesecake Menu Factory, or the Cheesecake Factory menu effect. So you go to Cheesecake Factory and you're really hungry and you sit down and you open the menu and there's so many choices that you're paralyzed by indecision. And so that's what happens with email as well. So this email on the left is, I think, from like Bye Bye Baby or something like that, a major retailer. So I open the email and it starts so strong. You have a new coupon, 20% discount, and then you have a couple buttons there to click. But then it says you can save $50, and then you can get a gift card. And then all the way at the bottom there, it's 15% off. So which one is right for me and which one do I choose? This would have been better just broken out into several emails. So what I would have done instead would just stop to where we were ahead, 20% discount. Number 6, boring may be best. This is sort of a sad slide because I don't want anyone to create boring emails, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what I mean by that. Being specific and clear is better than being creative and cutesy, especially with subject lines, especially with email. And of course, it depends on your brand, but people just love to use a lot of puns and just get really cutesy. And you can do that only if everything else is clear first. So this is like a design hierarchy of needs, and you can see the foundation is being functional, reliability, usable, and creativity is all the way at the top. So earlier you owned a home goods store, and now you own a juice shop, and you have new flavors. So here on the left, it's like you're really excited. You have a big announcement. You have 4 new flavors. It's finally here, and that's what you want to say. And people are probably going to open your email because, oh my gosh, it's your big announcement. Like maybe you have a new location, or you're closing, you're pregnant, who knows? But then they're going to be disappointed when they open your email. And over time, those types of emails are going to lose effectiveness. So what would be better is if you said new flavors at Happy Juice. So now the people that see the subject line and they open it are going to be the people that are actually interested in the content of your email. And over time, it'll be better for the health of your program. Number 7, reduce complexity. And this is a little bit similar to me with kind of putting functional and clear over cutesy. So here's an example. So in addition to Wedding Wire and MyEyeDr, I also worked at Total Wine & More as their email marketing manager. So a lot of these examples come from wine, selling wine or marketing wine. And so discounts plus wine equals happiness. I can't tell you how many times I see different variations of people suggesting subject lines like this because it's fun. You come up with it. You're like, this is so good. But actually save 15% on wine wins every time. Being super clear, straight to the point, describing exactly what's in the email. You can still use your wine emoji and make it cute and have a little bit of more personality. But I have tested this concept of cutesy versus straightforward or complex, like plus equal signs so many times. The specific wins every time. Number 8, strive for relevancy. So this is like the holy grail of email marketing is we're always trying to be relevant. Something that isn't a tip in this slide, but it's sort of a commandment of an email marketer, of a good email marketer, is the concept of subscriber first. So always putting your subscriber first. And that can be difficult because you're constantly balancing why are you doing email marketing in the first place? It's to meet your business goals, but you have to also put your subscriber hat on for long-term success. And so what is relevancy? Really, it is, again, going back to some lessons that you can learn from journalism is when a journalist goes to write a news article, they ask themselves always, I took some journalism classes in college, they ask themselves always, is this newsworthy? Are people going to care to read this? And so you have to kind of say the same thing when you're coming up with your email idea. So relevancy is it the right message for the subscriber and the right time for them and the intersection of those things? Okay, so earlier you owned a home goods store and then you owned a juice shop and now you own a pizza shop. So let's say you own your pizza shop and the Joneses, they come in to buy pizza every Friday night. They buy one pizza for their family. And you want to start an email marketing program for your pizza shop. So maybe you want to email the Joneses on Thursday or Friday, but you don't really want to give them a coupon for pizza because they're already going to buy pizza from you. Why would you give away margin dollar? So instead, maybe you give them a coupon for their second or their third pizza, or maybe soda, in hopes of getting them to spend more money with you. So now you have something that they may be interested in, a coupon on more pizza or soda. You have the right time, Thursday or Friday, because they always come in Fridays. And also you're meeting your business goals because you're hopefully growing revenue from the individual customer. And so that is like the perfect combination of all of the things that you can be as relevant and then also helping yourself. Number 9 is focus on the how. So I've already talked a lot about like the clarity of the message and the clarity of the message in your email. And sort of going along with that is making the how really clear. So you want to have a highly converting email. How are they going to convert? A couple of examples of what I mean by this would be, purchase now and have it shipped to your home. Trying to think of another example, but here are actually 2 push notifications that I sent while at Total Wine and More. And you can see that the top one, it says use code delivery49 for free delivery. So starting with the how. And then the second one, save limited time specials for Valentine's Day. I'm already telling them that they're going to save. They could click through to the landing page and just figure it out there. But if I add savings applied in cart, then it really helps someone understand how they're going to get their savings. So in these 2 examples, the promo was an important part of the message. And what I've learned is that if you give someone the actual discount code or make it really clear how they're going to get their discount, they feel empowered. And so I have another example, an email example from MyEyeDr. And I've blown up just the section here. So this is the whole email, which putting email in PowerPoint is not a great format. So I've just blown up this section here. So it's a similar thing. We're very hands-on service because it's your eye doctor, but you also buy eyeglasses from us. And so when you come into the office, we just assumed that, patients would feel like we would give them the promotion that worked best for them. But it turns out that they wanted to know exactly how to redeem whatever they were seeing in their email. They weren't going to, maybe they would print off their email and bring it in or search their inbox trying to look for some deal they saw. But if they can take that promo code and reference it while in the store, it really empowers them to use it. And it's just something more tangible. So 2 examples of focusing on the how, but not the only examples. Discount codes aren't the only examples. I recommend when you're coming up with your creative brief or whatever it is when you're planning your email, is you really, really think about the how. How is someone going to take the action that you want them to take? Number 10, don't undervalue CTA copy. And I have an example that really sums this up. So this is from Google, and I paid for their upgraded storage. So, Google Drive, and you can just pay for more storage. And then I got this email, and it says, save 16% on your membership. So that was the header, and I was confused because I already purchased from them. And of course, I scanned over the body copy because no one reads that. And I went straight to the CTA, and it says switch to an annual plan. And that was the aha moment for me, which was like, oh, that's what they want me to do, is switch to an annual plan. What I probably would have made the header instead was switch to an annual plan to save 16%. Then as soon as I opened this email, I would have known exactly what it was about instead of having to be confused for a minute and then going to the CTA. But it's a great example of the power of the CTA copy because it was the light bulb for me. Number 11, optimize for mobile. That's not anything new, although you'd be surprised how many companies still aren't doing it. But 2 reasons why that plays into highly converting email is 1, you can make the button big and wide so it's easily tappable on a device. And 2, you can, like we talked about earlier, enlarge the copy so that it's much more readable on a mobile device. Number 12, brand your transactional email. So I just have 2 examples from Evite up here. One is their promotional email, and one is just showing how they pulled in some more of their brand voice into a transactional email. But the actual example that I want to talk through is something that I heard someone speaking on, and it was a company an organization where you could donate to teachers for like an art project or a science project or something like that. And they launched an email that was really meant to be this transactional sort of thank you email, where it was pictures from the classroom of the kids actually doing the science project or the art project to the donors as a thank you. And they found out that they were getting so many more donations just from that email, what was meant to be just a transactional email. And so that really opened my eyes up to the power of transactional email. And you do have to, of course, be careful with transactional email because of canned spam. It has to continue to be more transactional than it is promotional. But I just think it can be a big unlock for companies because most of us as email marketers or marketers in general, we just focus on the weekly promotion or those really designed emails, when in fact you actually have all of these communications where you're talking directly to your subscribers most of the time when they're most engaged with you, and we just sort of forget about those emails or let the IT team have them triggered and no one has looked at them in years. Number 13, try plain text emails. So this is one that I'm doing a lot of right now. And I see so much success with it. I just brought this example back from earlier. So this would be someone who, if you really want to personify your brand, like if you're an individual, this is an influencer. But this is one that I did at MyEyeDr recently. So I had this idea of, we were sending all sorts of different messages, reminding people to get their annual eye exam, which for those of you in your room, if you haven't seen an eye doctor lately, I recommend it. And then we also have like sunglasses promos and things like that, buy one, get one free. But what I really wanted to try was just a plain text email with a credible source and signed by our chief medical officer. And it was the top performing email that we've sent in 2022. And a lot of work goes into making sure you have the right messaging, especially when you're talking in medicine, but zero design. I will point out, though, that it's really important, even in these, to continue to have the address and a way to opt out for canned spam. But you can see how it's just kind of fits into the email nicely. Number 14, optimize your sender. So here are 3 emails that I have in my inbox. And let's say I was just talking to my dad about gift ideas for my mom. So I have an idea. So now my dad had some ideas. He sent me an email. It says gift ideas for dad. And then just skip over the second one there. But I have an email also from Blooming Sales that says last chance, 30% off gifts for her. Now, I subscribed to Blooming Sales emails, so I'm interested in their content. They have last chance, urgency. They have 30% off. That's a pretty good discount. And they have gifts for her, which is relevant. I was just talking about gifts with my dad. But which email am I going to open every time? The one for my dad. That could have probably said, no subject, and I still would have opened it because it's from my dad. That's how important the sender is, because you trust the brand, or you trust the sender, whoever's sending it. And also, I didn't mention this on the relevancy slide, but the sender is super, super important for relevancy. This slide is a few of the ways that I've seen people play around with the sender. So you could, if you wanted to give now you own a bookstore. If you wanted to give your bookstore some personality or a persona, you could say Andy at Books R Us. Seen a lot of that. The middle one is just Andy. That one gets a little trickier unless like you are your brand as the individual, or you have a use case like that with the company or organization you're sending email marketing for. That one is because you want to remain authentic. And so people might feel like they're being tricked if you're always using a first name like that, especially if you're changing the first name. But if you do use a first name like that, I always recommend still keeping the brand name in the subject line, like this example, so that people can put 2 and 2 together and know that that's what they're being emailed about. And then the last one is a little bit of a different example. It says Books R Us VIPs. So it's just a way of segmenting the list, letting people know that this is maybe a special email just for them and the group that they're part of. Number 15 is strive for 40 character subject lines. This one is really specific. I read in a book, Email Marketing Rules by Chad S. White, to strive for 25 characters, which is really short. I mean, that's harder than tweeting. And so I was curious, right? And so what I did at Total Wine is looked at all of my subject lines, paired them with their open rates, did a character count of the subject lines, and ended up with not this graph, but something that looked a little bit like this. And I found that 40 characters was actually our sweet spot. And so you can take my word for it and strive for that, or you can do that same thing with your data. Number 16, optimize your pre-header. So similar concept to really paying attention to your sender. Everyone obsesses over subject line, but I see fewer people obsess over their pre-header. So on the slides here, you see a desktop example and a mobile example. So on desktop, the sender is really prevalent and it's bolded. And then the subject line, pretty much same thing. The pre-header is gray and you don't see that as well. But on mobile, the subject line actually gets kind of sandwiched between the sender and the pre-header. And the pre-header has a ton more real estate. It's 2 lines. So you see it a lot more. And so the tip here really is just, hey, pay attention to your pre-header, customize it. You can see the first one from Wells Fargo, the pre-header starts with Wells Fargo logo, which is the alt text for an image, which they just kind of left there and didn't customize it. So even major brands are forgetting about this. And so basically, if you're sending writing subject lines yourself, you have a copywriter or whatever, in addition to getting the subject line, you want to get the pre-header with that and make sure that it also flows well into the email. My personal preference, I see people write a pre-header the way they write a subject line, where it's like a brand new thing. But my personal preference is actually to take the most compelling sentence from the body copy of your email and bring it into the pre-header, because I think that just sets the expectations of what's inside the email. That's the point of the pre-header from the beginning. So number 17, consider your landing page. So how can you have a highly converting email if when someone clicks and goes to convert on the landing page, it doesn't work? I've seen people talk about like, oh, you're going to click to a blog, and the goal of this email is for content. It's for engaging, and they're going to click to their blog. But if you can't then make a purchase or do something on the blog that you actually want them to do at the end of the day, then that's not setting you up for success for a highly converting email. It can be difficult, especially with major brands where the email team or the marketing team doesn't really have control of their website and stuff like that. But whenever you're, again, doing your creative brief or thinking about the how, or talking about, where you're going to link to, or the copy, or all of that, you also need to think about the full subscriber experience of what's going to happen when they exit the email. And so that's really the tip, is to make sure that you're testing all the way through as if you're a subscriber and you're trying to take the action at the end of the day. This is the conversion heuristic. I adopted it from Mech Labs. And it is basically their equation for highly converting landing pages, although I think it works really well with email as well. So C, conversion, equals motivation, clarity of the value proposition. So we talked about having a really clear message, and then the incentive, like a deal or what's in it for them. And then reducing anxiety and reducing friction. Anxiety would be something like a money back guarantee or a return policy. And then friction would be like making it really easy for the person to take the action. Like maybe you accept PayPal and Venmo and credit cards and anything that they need to actually convert with you. And finally, number 18 is use reporting to do more of what works. This is what drives my everyday strategy. It's what drives what emails we're going to send, when, subject lines, body copy, everything. And I have a few examples. So when I was working at Total Wine, our number one best performing email was highly rated wines. And that is wines that are industry ratings. So for example, a 94-point wine rated by Wine Spectator, something like that, always performed the best. And we made them really smart, like highly rated wine, highly rated cabs under $20 if your average price point was $20 and you usually buy red wine. So really highly personalized wine emails. And so you look at your reporting and you say, what's our best performing email? Highly rated wines. And how do we do more of what's working? So what did we do? We launched 2 more emails. One was customer favorites. And so we prioritized getting the customer review information from the website into Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which is what we were using, so that we could pull in customer favorites. Really similar concept, but instead of expert ratings, we're just talking about customer reviews on the website. And then how do we do it a step further? What's a new flavor of what's working? So we did top selling wines in your store. So we literally just count of the inventory for this store, their home store, the store you most frequently shop at. Find the highly most purchased wines and put that into an email. So a lot of work goes into something like that, but at a basic level, it is just doing more of what works. Okay, I'm doing the same thing right now at my eye doctor. So I showed you earlier this email from our chief medical officer, just a reminder to schedule your eye appointment. So he said, I'm sending this note to remind you. And so we sent that. And then we sent it again, but this time just with reminder in the subject line. And it did even better. And then we were like, how can we find new flavors of this? And so this other example is plain text storytelling from our founder, Sue Downs, who she herself had a medical emergency related to her eyes. And so in this email, she's telling her story and, why eye health is important, for your overall health. Everybody go get your eye exam. And so we have another one that we're sending too, which is from Dr. Smith, who was a really poor student when he was a kid, and getting a pair of glasses really changed his life. And then he went on to become an optometrist. So there's a warning with these types of emails, is that they're really authentic and they can work, but if you do them too much, then they lose their effectiveness, sort of like the boy who cried wolf. But yeah, so 2 examples of using reporting to do more of what works. So that's 18. Here's a summary. Take it all in. I won't read all of these words to you. I have a couple bonus tips that I can go into. I think I have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. If there's any major questions, throw your hand up. We can start there. Otherwise, I can just go into a couple bonus tips. Okay, bonus tips. Bonus number 1, deliverability. Get your emails to the inbox. So how can you expect to have an email that converts without it actually landing in your inbox? So there's some complicated and expensive ways to monitor your deliverability, and there's also some easier ways. So number 1 is to be methodical about your data collection. Number 2 is don't buy lists, which depending on which crowd you're talking to, that could be a very integral part of your strategy or not. But the way that you really should grow your lists is just like, I come from retail, so loyalty programs, things like that. Of course, digital ads, get explicit opt-ins, and then create an unengaged suppression list. So this is one that it never really goes over with leadership that well when you tell them, oh, we're going to slash our emails in half. But actually, if people aren't engaging with your emails at all in the last 60 days, 6 months, then they're probably not going to. And so it's best to just remove them from your send list. And you just can create an unengaged suppression list. Maybe you try to win them back every once in a while. But for the most part, your delivery could suffer if you continue to send to them. And monitoring your deliverability. Like I said, there's some expensive solutions. There's also some really simple solutions. I'm actually dealing with this right now with Microsoft clients. Because of the nature of my business, we don't really talk to you for a whole year after your appointment. You could come in and you're really not due for your next appointment for a whole year. And so historically, the company was not engaging with those people. And so I'm actually dealing with some deliverability issues right now. And how do I know that? Because my delivery rate was still very high, but open rates plummeted. And so what that tells me is that I'm getting to the inbox, but I'm going to spam. So that's how you can use the metrics that are just included in your email service provider to identify those things versus I'm trying to think of the names of some of the major softwares right now that help monitor your deliverability if you don't have that set up. And then the last bonus tip here is everybody loves a list. So of course I fell back on a list for this presentation and an email. It's a great way to break up your content. Everybody loves a list. So yeah, the end.